We first drove the Tesla Model 3 back in 2019, and it was immediately obvious that it was a game-changing electric car. And over the years, it's remained one of the very best EVs around. But it has just had a very significant update. In this video, we're telling you everything you need to know about the Model 3 Project Highland. We're reminding you what's so good about the current car, and we're also making some suggestions for changes ourselves.
As well as all of that, we're here in Oslo with a new car, and I get to tell you what it's like to drive.
But first, this video is supported by PodPoint, winners of our Best Home EV Charger Test 2023. Look in our description below to find out more. So if you remember, when the Model 3 first went on sale, the only rival we really had to put it up against was the Jaguar I-Pace, which wasn't a perfect comparison because that's obviously an SUV and this is a saloon. But over the years, the electric car market has changed dramatically from then. So now this faces direct competition from cars like the BMW i4, the Polestar 2, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, but this might still be cross-shopped with some electric SUVs, and it's not like there's a shortage of those either. So you've got the Kia EV6, Genesis GV60, and also the Tesla Model Y. But no matter what we've put the Model 3 up against, it's always been the better choice, and that is partly because Tesla didn't just release the Model 3, see that it was successful, and then leave it alone. This is a car that's had a number of different tweaks to it over the years to improve the battery, the performance, and the lineup as a whole. So the Model 3 has never been a car that's just stood still. It's always seemingly been improving. But these changes are some of the biggest yet. So what is new? Well, you can see it does have a different look from before. There are sleeker, more powerful headlights and no fog lights, which has freed up space for the bumper to be reshaped in order to reduce drag and boost efficiency, Tesla says. At the back, the rear lights are now C-shaped and integrated into the boot lid. The reverse lights are now located low down on the bumper, and the Tesla badge has been replaced with this Tesla lettering. Plus, the red paint has been updated and there's a new grey option. There are also two new alloy wheel designs and new tyres. There are changes inside too, but first let's remind you what the pre-facelift Model 3 is like. And really, there are lots of good things in this interior, like this infotainment system, which is on this massive screen. It's very responsive. It's got a relatively simple layout considering all the many different things it can do. The only shame is that it would be good if you could make all of the fonts and the buttons bigger, because of course a big drawback of this interior is the fact that there aren't any physical buttons really to control the main things that you would like to in this car and on the infotainment system. The other problem is that the quality in here has always been a little bit patchy compared to the very best electric cars out there. But it's definitely not bad though. And overall, there is lots of good things in this interior, like the tech especially. New changes include a brighter, more responsive 15.4-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which is the same size as before, but with a slightly slimmer surround to apparently give it a more usable screen area. But the biggest change, for drivers at least, is to do with the steering wheel. Like the new Model S, the stalks on the steering column in the facelifted Model 3 have been removed. So now you choose your gear by using a slider on the touchscreen. And the new 3-spoke steering wheel houses haptic buttons to control the lights, indicators, wipers and cruise control. While it works better than you'd expect, it's still not as simple or as effective as the traditional stalk setup from before. In the back, a new 8-inch touchscreen on the back of the centre console allows occupants to adjust things like the aircon and their heated seats, and they can even watch films on it. Like before, there are heated seats all round, but there are now also ventilated seats in the front. Other upgrades around the interior include a better sound system on long-range models with 17 speakers rather than 14, as well as new amps and software to help it sound punchier and more immersive. Your voice should also sound clearer on a phone call too, with additional microphones in the interior to help isolate it better. The range for the onboard Wi-Fi has been doubled for the 5 GHz setting, improving connectivity for those over-the-air updates when the car needs to connect to your home router. A few other touches liven up the interior compared to the outgoing Model 2. You can now personalise the top panel of the dashboard with inserts in a different colour or material, like a grey textured fabric. The cup holders have gained a sliding lid, and a strip of ambient lighting runs along the upper section of the doors and continues along the top of the dashboard. There have been some mechanical updates too. So at the minute, the Model 3 lineup starts with the rear-wheel drive model, then it goes up to the long range, and the range-topping version of the Model 3 is the Model 3 Performance. And when it comes to the official range of this car, it starts in the rear-wheel drive model at 305 miles, but if you go for the long range, then it goes up to 374 miles. But the new car gets an even longer range. On the standard 18-inch wheels, the rear-wheel drive model now has a claimed range of 344 miles, and the long-range version claims 421 miles. These boosts aren't actually to do with changes to the battery or electric motors though. This is thanks to the improved aerodynamics on offer from the facelifted model. There haven't been any improvements to the performance on offer. That doesn't really matter though, because it's not like any versions of the Model 3 were particularly slow anyway. And if you're wondering about the specific range-topping Model 3 performance, it hasn't officially been confirmed by Tesla to be part of this facelift, but it is expected to arrive later on. For now though, the lineup consists of the Model 3 rear-wheel drive and Model 3 long range. There are some other mechanical changes to run through, so let's head to Oslo where Lawrence can tell you more about that.
So what's it actually like to drive then? Well, on the whole, this facelifted version drives very much like the outgoing model, and that's no bad thing. The Model 3 has always been one of the more enjoyable cars to drive in its class, with its relatively quick steering, grippy handling, and rapid acceleration. Now though, Tesla have made some improvements in two key areas. First of all, there's the ride. Now the Model 3 has always been on the firmer end of the scale, but with new tyres and revised suspension, it's taken the edge off lumps and bumps off the road surface. Now, it's not made a huge difference, but you certainly jostled around in your seat a lot less than you used to. It's also a lot quieter in here. You now get double glazed rear windows, as well as the ones on the front, and the bonnet's been slightly reshaped to help guide air over the windscreen. So, in terms of wind noise, there's a lot less than there used to be. Those new tyres have also been chosen to reduce some of the road noise. And when you combine that with the plusher materials in here that's designed to absorb some of the noise that would otherwise echo around in here, it's a little bit quieter than it was before. Again, it's not made a huge difference. There's still an underlying level of road noise at higher speeds, but it's certainly a lot less harsh than before. Of course, we're driving on the much nicer roads of Oslo, so we'll revisit the Model 3 facelift back in the UK and see if it's just as quiet there.
Now, there aren't any major changes in the dimensions of the car, so the new Model 3 is as roomy as before. But the rear bench itself has been tweaked slightly to offer better long-distance comfort, most notably featuring more padding on the backrests and therefore better lumbar support. The boot remains as fantastically practical as it was before. Of course, it's a saloon, not a hatchback, so the opening itself isn't huge, but it's a really big space inside. And there's even a decent front boot as well. Next up, what about the pricing? Well, it hasn't been confirmed in the UK just yet, but pricing has been announced in other European markets, and the new Model 3 is roughly €1,000 more than the old one, which, considering the upgrades and considering the Model 3 was already incredibly good value compared to its rivals, seems very competitive indeed. So that is everything that's new with the new Model 3. And as we've said, it's a fantastic electric car, and these changes should make it even better. But nothing is perfect. So these are the changes that we think Tesla should have made as well. With all the cameras and radars and sensors on the Model 3, it has always seemed strange that there is not a bird's eye view 360-degree camera available with the Model 3 or any Tesla at all. Lots of other cars get them, and they are very helpful indeed. And yes, this infotainment system is very good, and it has an intuitive layout, but it would at least be nice to have the option of Apple CarPlay or Android Auto if you wanted to use that instead. This has never come with either. The Model 3 doesn't have a driver display, so everything, including the speed that you're going, is on the infotainment system, which isn't ideal. If Tesla is so desperate to keep things minimalist in the interior and doesn't want to plonk a digital driver display on the steering wheel, then why not just give us a head-up display instead? This seat material has always felt a bit cheap and plasticky, to be honest. It would be nice if there was a more luxurious material available on the options list, perhaps. Still, even if those changes haven't been made, the updates to the Model 3 should make this an even better electric car than before. Tell us what you think of it in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you want to see another one, then click there. And if you want to go to our website to read our written review of the Model 3 and to get a great deal on your next car, click